Time being 6:30, we'll call the meeting to order, the Walpole Sewer and Water Commission. We're going to take up our agenda. The first item is abatements, which we'll pass around. Want to start signing at one end or the other? Feel like this? I'll give you a chance to review that. And then our first item will be the 14 Canvasback Way.
Okay, there's three sheets. Make sure you sign them all. And none of these are for, rebates.
No.
There's the last page is for rebate, pool and
There's rink filling in
swimming pool, yeah.
MTU adjustments.
Okay, maybe while we're doing this, Scott, would you like to explain the the case for Canvasback Way?
Certainly.
We get
So-
the status report from,
You want the status report first, or you want to?
Okay, you do the stats, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, since you've met in the last 2 weeks, things have been relatively quiet as far as leaks go. One of the questions that came up at a couple of the meetings, specifically the last one, was the amount of rebates that are processed. So each of you has 2 sheets in front of you, one from last year, one from this year of the rebates. I believe that was requested by you, Patrick. At the last meeting, you had also questioned what's the appropriate runtime for a generator, whether you should run it for half a day or a whole day. And I reached out to one of the manufacturers of the models that we use. Their recommendation is 15 minutes to 30 minutes once a week. They don't recommend you run it for a prolonged period of time, like 4 hours or a day. The reason being you're deteriorating the life of the piece of equipment. So you're just shortening its lifespan. That's not needed according to the manufacturer. The Leonard Road Sewer Station, still complete. We're waiting on the gas meter for 100% completion. And looking to see some action on that towards the end of this week from the gas company, and I apologize for the delay. The Phase 2 SCADA upgrade at this plant at Delaney is right now 67 complete. The majority of the work that's remaining is in the pumping stations and booster stations. We continue to perform routine tasks and maintenance. One of the questions that I would ask is, right now we have 2 wells out of service because the raw water is above the action limit for PFAS. When the water is blended with the other wells, it's not a problem that comes down. Those 2 wells were taken out of service. If we run into a situation where we're running into inadequate capacity to supply the demand, we may need to put those in service, but monitor the water to make sure that they do continue to be blended down.
Scott, when I suggested that those go offline,
Mhm.
it was, you know what it was in the springtime.
Right.
And, but I do understand that obviously we need to have water.
Right.
And when it's mixed, and I understand that it'll be below the level.
Mhm.
And my reasoning for that was that when we could get a lower PFAS, we should. But when we can't, we shouldn't.
Right.
So I agree with you, that those have to go online as soon as you see a problem with capacity.
Right, and I'd also like to see them stay online until they go through a monitoring period for PFAS, because I don't wanna have us in a situation where we turn the wells on for 3 weeks, turn them on 2 weeks, and that gets into our sampling schedule, where for this plant, it's required for us to monitor monthly. I don't wanna have it off during a period when we're sampling for PFAS and have it on when we're not, because that would be.
But you understand, I never said to turn the wells off.
I understand.
Okay.
No, that was a decision that we made, just for the sake of, making sure that, we kept it as low as possible,
Okay.
for as long as we could.
Oh, I do have a question for you. I sent you an email on Sunday afternoon, Sunday
Okay.
morning. Was there a leak on 1A? Or was
Not that I
that
know
something? What was all that water? Out in
This-
front of
this
McDonald's,
lesson- Oh,
on the other side of the street.
yeah, I replied to your text, and I forgot what I replied to you, but that was a known thing, that was not a leak.
That was, what was it?
It was not a leak, I can actually tell you what it was. I did reply to you. So- Yeah, it was a sprinkler issue, and our guys were already taking care of it,
Oh, okay.
so it was a sprinkler, it was not a leak.
All right.
When you say, so you test for the PFAS, well specific, And then-
Initially,
but you could, if you're blending the water, you could post-test it.
the initial requirements when this program first started was to test the entry points to the distribution system, which would be the finished water leaving at any plant we have, which is 2, as well as all the source wells. If you had a detect in any of those samples, it required a confirmatory sample, where you had to test it again to make sure that the first test was accurate. So once we moved past the 2 tests for the wells, there's no requirement to test for the sources. We have done some testing on the sources with Washington too. While it was offline, we pumped it to waste, and we wanted to see if there's any change in the levels while it was offline, and there were none.
I think that's what I was getting at. The theory, by shutting the well down, somehow that would allow the PFAS to mitigate itself? or-
No, the idea was that if you have a well that has 10 parts of PFAS, and you're running 100 gallons a minute, you have another that's at 30, and you blend the 2 together, it might blend down to somewhere, 15 or somewhere in there. It was not to try to mitigate what's in the ground, or where it's come from. You have to determine the source. And that's another step that we're taking, not just shutting the wells off. I know I mentioned at a previous meeting that I like to test some of the monitoring wells around it and see what the level of PFAS is, and I've already contacted the lab to get that going, specifically at Washington 3 and Washington 2. And also, we're gonna be keeping an eye on the results from the DEP's request or requirement for Parker Hannafin to test their monitoring wells. They have until July 30th of this year to have that completed. So they still have time to get that done, but we don't have any more information other than they were ordered to take those steps. And that's my status report.
Okay,
Question, John, through you. On the rebates, there was also a question about if we were to eliminate the rebates, what would that do to the credits that we get?
The credits?
Yeah. Because that was the concern on
Yeah.
eliminating this rebate program altogether.
It is. The amount of money that's being turned back in the rebates is not as significant, I think, as the credit we get for our water management policy for conservation.
Yeah.
We get a lot more return for a little bit of money by having that in place. So in my opinion, it's not worth getting rid of,
Okay.
because the dollars.
looks like it's diminishing too.
It is.
The
Yeah.
22 figure is much lower.
Chairman, I also see no issue with this rebates, at least with the washer and toilets. But the rink, and pool, these rebates, like, they are random numbers, there's sometimes more than $100, like $125, $104.
It also depends on the size of the pool.
That's correct. So, what I feel that, it should not be, some unlimited number should be restricted to $100 per household per year.
Well, the pool fills in the rink so that you get a sewer abatement because it doesn't go to the sewer.
When they're filling it up, when they're emptying it,
It doesn't go to the sewer.
where does it go?
Ground.
Storm.
Ground and drain.
Do you know that?
I don't think anybody would wanna pop a
That's
manhole
close to
cover or
where
run into their
it goes.
sink or.
Okay, no,
Right
the
there.
thing is, different people have a different pool size, so we should, we should not be giving advantage to the person with the big pool will get a big rebate.
It's not a rebate, it's an abatement, though. There's
Yeah,
two different
abatement
terms.
is still, it's a board policy, isn't it? Like-
The idea is
No, an
that,
abatement's different than a rebate.
If you charge them sewer fees on water that didn't go through the sewer, you're charging for the service that wasn't rendered.
But that will still happen for people who have a regular water, flowing out from their tap. We
I'm not
charge
sure I
them.
understand.
So the people who doesn't have pool and all, but if their water is flowing out on the street, if they're washing the car, it's all going through the sewer. It's still
There's a
charged
percentage, right, so your water meter right now is 85% of your water bill is sewer, under the assumption that the other 15% is used for car washing, washing your driveway, your
Standard board,
house,
isn't it?
whatever other outdoor use.
Yeah, so the point is not to basically say that not give abatement, but basically have some restriction on it that should be up to, some amount, not like, any amount kind of thing.
That's a decision of the board. In my opinion, if you put a restriction on it, you're gonna be charging for a service they didn't receive. If you say you could, half the water you
That is because
use.
of the rates, because the rates that are set like that, isn't it? Our assumption is that 15% of water is not used. But in the last meeting, we were told that everywhere else, 100% of water is charged as a sewer. So that's a plain and simple.
That depends. If you have a second meter, an irrigation meter, it goes to
No,
100%.
the last rate hearing meeting, Mr. Rick, he told that, all other towns are charging 100% of the sewer.
I don't know where those numbers come from. I can tell you that
That's
where
why
I live,
I also asked.
it's
like, which
90%.
town? He said 90% of MWRA community charges for it, so that's the point.
In the MWA's rate survey, if you look at all of the 61 towns, you will find that the vast majority of them do go at 100%. There are 90%, I don't know, is your house in
I'm
in
not,
Bever-
no.
we were one of the outliers, Quincy, I think Malden, there was a few others. Norwood is at 60%, which is way, way low, but.
Mr. Chairman, Scott, when you were saying if we get rid of these rebates for the appliances, right, we'll lose a credit?
We have a water management act permit. and-
No, you said we'd lose a credit, right?
Well,
And how much credit, how much money would we lose?
it's not a credit as far as money.
That's right, that's what I wanted you to say. So it's a credit that we really don't know. It's the DEP trying to move us into different ways of doing business.
It's about
That's basically what they
conservation.
want, right. And for instance, the monthly billing is one of the things they want us to do, which we haven't done. That would have given us more credit. So basically, this is costing us, what is this, $1,500 a month?
A
Roughly,
year,
a year? Is this a month or a year?
just look at the dates from January to
Half a year. Okay. And so $3,000 roughly, that is just money out of our pockets.
Right.
Right, that we have to make up with fees. And we really don't know on the water permit how much credit, we don't even know what to call it. How much, we call it credit because we can't think of any other word for it. How much they give us, how many extra gallons do we get per person? So the question is, if we get rid of this rebate, would the amount of water they allow us to withdraw be diminished? And if so, how much?
I don't have a number for you.
No, I know. I don't think they do too. I think it's something that's ethereal. Okay, never mind.
Could be huge, Patrick.
It could be huge. You wanna investigate that and find out?
Sure,
Okay.
don't think negative, could be good.
It could be, 25 gallons per person extra.
Okay. All right, so any comments on Canvasback Way?
Have we actually
Yeah.
not sent them some?
No, this was, the meter was changed out, and the resident questioned the meter, and it was the decision of the board, or the request of the board, that we have the meter tested. I believe it was you, Patrick, and John Swain asked to have this meter tested, which we did. And the meter is almost 100% accurate. It's 100% on the low scale, 100% in the mid-range, and 99%, which is well within AWA standards, so that the meter is perfectly accurate. The water went through the meter.
All right, do we need a motion on this, or we already made a decision, right?
Well, did we in fact inform the customer of the result? I mean, it sounds like he's
Do
asked for, in March, but I don't see in his letter, which is dated June 1st, if we haven't.
He was informed that the board was doing further investigation, which was the testing of the meter, which has been performed, and the meter's found to be accurate.
All right. Well, can we send him the letter saying this is the result, and we could show him the,
Certainly.
We don't need a vote on that?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. Now we have Carpenter Road. Any comments about this? It's kind of hard to put your hand on what he's asking for.
So, from what I read, he had, or not he, a
Has
family
anybody
member.
talked to him personally?
I have not talked to him personally. I believe he visited other departments within the town hall for something similar, and he was made aware that maybe he should approach the water department and see what they could do, if anything.
Well, our past practice has been, went through the meter, you have to pay, with the exception if it was something that we can definitely show did not go into the sewer, in which case you still pay for the water, but not the sewer. I believe there was a toilet, toilet in a single bathroom, so the water went through.
You know, it makes a huge difference. I mean, I came before the board once.
Yes.
Where I had a leak in my backyard. Okay, it was like $500, but there was no sewer charge because there was a big puddle in my bed. And then one of my tenants had a leak, and she let it run into the toilet. That was $1,000, and it was only for about 3 weeks that she ran it. That's how much water you can
Yeah.
use up because you're getting sewer charge too. So I feel badly for these people, but I don't know how we could help them.
There's another, I mean, if you make that motion, Bill, I think Mary, whoever speaks to this gentleman, could point out, the town does have a mechanism for people who are economically stressed, to give them relief on bills that are due, both in taxes and utility.
Certainly in property tax,
And that-
there's various things. I was talking to the collector about this, but not, we don't have any specific thing related to water.
Well, I think there are other I'd have to ask how that works, but I think there is a committee, I think that I think Jack Fisher's the chairman of it, in fact.
I know he's still on it.
Yeah, it's an aid committee. They analyze bills and they'll give relief with the collector, so maybe something like that. But if you want to make your motion for this, at least we can.
I've made my motion.
Okay.
So if there's a second.
Is there a second?
Could you repeat the motion, Bill?
That our past practice has been if the water went through the meter, it's owed, and the only exception is if it can be demonstrated that the water did not go in the sewer, we do eliminate the sewer charge during that same period.
That's not a motion.
I think it is, Pat.
I'll second it.
That's a discussion.
I'll second it.
What do you want? Do you want us to not pay it?
No, it's owed,
It's already
based
been
on
paid.
our past practice, and it's good that the town is looking at addressing this.
You
But
want
at
us
this
to-
point, they haven't, and
You want us to, what, agree with you that that's the letter we should send?
yeah,
Huh?
the money is owed.
Oh, okay, if
Yeah.
you can make any motion you want.
Well, we
No, it
managed
doesn't
to get
sound
it
like one.
seconded and,
I'll second it for you.
okay.
John already
All right.
seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? That's 5-0. Okay. 3 Buckboard Drive. We have a request in calligraphy here, it's very beautiful writing.
Did you go to parochial school?
So,
You have great handwriting. You know, my granddaughters can't read it. They were never taught cursive.
I love the letter. I read it twice, actually. Scott, could you walk us through what's entailed in a final reading, final bill?
So with a final reading, in the past, it would be scheduled, would have a meter reader go to the property, obtain the reading, bring it back to the office, and they would process it there. Things changed a bit during COVID because of quarantine. You couldn't get into a property, and we had to rely on other means to do that, which was to ask either the realtor or the owner to take that reading for us. But that's only one step in the final reading process. Even now, there are some properties where, understandably, for various reasons, they don't want people to go into their properties. So that's the only reason we stopped physically having an employee go into the house and take the reading.
Does the homeowner or the person buying the home need some document from us that this is the final reading? They do.
Yeah,
So we did in fact deliver that. How we managed, I think we did deliver the service. I don't think we specified how we arrived at the thing, but we did deliver a final reading, and they needed that,
right.
so.
But there's nothing in our bylaws that indicates how we physically obtain the final meter reading.
No, there's no methodology or technique that says this must be conducted this way. The only thing we did was,
So,
our preference was to not read from a remote reader,
okay.
because the inaccuracies, especially the old 1950 technology ones, they would miss readings, miss pulses, and it'd be widely different from inside. It has to be an inside meeting, that's really the only requirement.
When was the last time that we looked at this fee? Because
Well,
I guess this fee now
In
is
theory,
more
we,
of an
every
administrative
time we
fee.
do a rate hearing, we had taken the opportunity to review all the fees. And generally, we haven't changed in maybe like overtime or something like that. But rarely have we changed the fee schedule.
Scott, is there anything in our regulations that say the charge will be determined on the basis of an employee of the town of Walpole going to the resident's home?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Oh, okay.
And this document, it needs to be delivered when, okay, so this is kind of a certificate charge, like, certified document.
Yeah, it is important. That's like a utility certification that there's no liens on the property or no outstanding. You wanna?
Well, the only thing I'll add is that past practice has always been that a water technician has gone out and has done the reading. And the COVID aspect of it has terminated. As a matter of fact, you also need, as you know, a carbon monoxide and a fire test done by the fire department. And they're coming out and they're doing it and they're charging $50 and they've done it in person. And as far as the past practice, yes, you don't have anything in your bylaw that says what entails a final water meter reading. However, other towns do, and I'll point out that North Reading is one of them, where they define that the practice is to go out, which is very reasonable, because you want to make sure, the town wants to make sure it gets an accurate reading of what the final bill is, and not relying on a homeowner, and then have some discrepancy later on. So, North Reading charges $50 for a final water meter reading. So you're charging 75, which is somewhat on the high side, is what I can see. But I think that this is, that you have to go out and either explain fully what a final water meter reading is and what it entails. And since the only thing that exists is past practice, then we know that it has to entail a visit by the water technician. And that did not occur.
Okay, anything else on that?
So I think the only comment I have is that, you know, the fees, like whether it should be $50 or $75, and that's already decided in past, like we cannot change that fees.
I'm not asking for that.
Okay, no, so that's the only point, and the second point is, if it is a certificate which is needed by a real estate transaction from the water department, and there's a human labor involved, office labor involved, and if they are charging, you know, this fees, just even without going or through, let's say remote reading or something, that's still a reasonable cost for the office to basically charge for this certificate.
Well, $75 entails a visit by a water technician. So you're actually paying for the water technician to come out. That's the most expensive part of the $75 fee. After that, it's all clerical. It's a clerical calculation and the issuance of a final report, a paper report, that's used by the homeowner at the closing.
What if the meter has, you know, the electronic MTU? There's no need for them to go to the property.
I agree with that,
Yeah, so the point is,
but that didn't occur either.
this property does
The
not
way the
have that.
reading, the way the reading occurred was the homeowner had to do the reading. So you're billing for a service that the homeowner did.
And Scott, sorry, what was the reason the reading was done by homeowner? There's no MTU?
At this time, I believe I'm not sure why the request was made for this particular one.
Do we know what the standard is these days? Just for all the final readings?
What the standard is?
Yeah, is it still contacting the homeowner? Do we ever send technicians?
Yeah, we do.
We do,
We do take final readings.
okay.
The only thing that changed through this whole process was when we had to make modifications because of COVID.
So are those modifications still in place?
Are those what?
Are they still in place? And is that why we didn't send a technician?
Like I said, for this particular one, I don't know why technician, I can't tell you they didn't go there because of COVID or for some other reason. I can certainly find out, but at this property, I don't know why they requested it.
Do they typically call ahead?
Yeah.
But you don't know if they called or not? Okay. So we have to take that under advisement, find out the details, or?
Certainly.
Okay. I would say too, when seniors are moving out of town, there is a program, seniors can get a rebate and they can work it off at town hall, so they don't have to pay the bill.
If you're no longer a resident, are you allowed to do that, or do you have to, wherever you're moving to?
It's self-designated bill. They put a meter on you, though. You had so much time to get out once you declared you're leaving.
I'm just happy to bring this little problem to your attention, that's all I'm.
We appreciate you doing that.
Further advisement, I think maybe we talk as a board, you know, if we're not gonna send technicians out, then maybe we do look at what is the administrative cost to run that final report? Is there a fee adjustment that we look to make, you know, maybe more in line with what Reading's doing?
It's something that's certainly be reanalyzed
Yeah.
and make sure that we're consistent with the policy every time we do it.
And your observation's good though too, because I noticed like, not to get off subject, but there are a number of departments in town hall, like the assessor's office, that now there's a plexiglass wall. You can't go look at the books, you can't look at the computer, you can't, deal with them as far as paying, doing anything. The COVID walls are still there in town hall, which is not customer friendly. It's just my personal opinion. In a number of departments, and maybe they need to think about that, is if COVID's over, we could take some of the plexiglass down and be more interpersonal. Okay, well, so we'll advise you, Mr. Moraski, of the results of this study. Thank you
the
for
letter.
your visit.
Excellent handwriting.
It is, that's beautiful.
This is a bad lead.
It's okay.
Okay, Jarvis Farm. Norfolk Aggie School.
Mr. Chairman, the people who have graduated in the past from Norfolk County Educational School are doing a fundraiser, a cornhole tournament to raise funds for scholarship. That's correct, right? And they want, of course, bring in 30 cars to park in our watershed, which we don't have any way to protect the watershed if they bring 30 cars in. But the point that I'm trying to understand is Norfolk Aggie has literally probably 10 times the size of
Think, what's going on up
and they have toilet facilities, and they have lights,
And
and
barns.
they have, huh?
They have barns and all
They have-
kinds of
and
outbuildings
they
all
have-
over the
Guess what
property.
they have? They have parking on environmentally safe surfaces.
They
So
even have corn stalks.
I'm going to deny this.
They could make their own corn. I'm perplexed with you, that lightly crossed my mind as well.
Why don't we go back to the rec department and suggest that, is there a reason that this organization cannot use their own facility rather than ours?
I move that we deny this request. That's a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second? No second? I'll second it for the purpose of discussion.
Yeah. I already discussed mine.
We already discussed it.
Yeah.
Did anyone else want to?
Is there any fees to use them?
There you go, that's the important point.
Is there any fees to use the farm?
can't hear.
Because he wants to know if there's fees
To
to use the farm. If you recall, when the finance committee was questioning us about revenues, et cetera, that was something that was brought up
Yeah.
about, do we collect appropriate funds? What is the non-user types of revenue that are come to?
They have to post insurance and stuff like that, bonds or something. There's a whole bunch of things they need to do, get permission from the fire chief and stuff like that, but they don't pay us anything, so.
No, what was it, the thing we got away from, and Bill, you would remember this you were on the committee, I believe, for with the recreation. We had a number of people come in. We had the fellow who was an NFL football player who wanted to do a sports camp up there.
Yeah.
He was gonna pay $50,000 a year or something. He was told, no, it's too heavy of a use, you have to have a light use. And there was a couple others that wanted to have a permanent kind of relationship to use Jarvis Farm. And somehow this migrated over to the rec department. It's become like a free service now, it's like a charity
Well, one of the
operation.
things,
And what bothers me is just, not to interrupt you, I'll jump, is they keep wanting to use the cabins. That one guy with the walk,
yeah,
they want to have the people stay at the cabins overnight or use the
Yes.
cabin, and these people want to use the cabin. And it just, now who's gonna clean the cabins, and what are they gonna do there? Who's contaminating the water up there? I mean, it's,
Well, until we get a safe place to park automobiles. I walk into Stop and Shop's parking lot, and I see all these fluids coming out of cars. God knows what these fluids are. Maybe when we get to electric vehicles, that won't be such a problem. But right now, I see transmission fluid and coolant and who knows what, dripping oil. And you can see it, especially in the wintertime, because it turns the water like a rainbow as it goes into the storm drains. So I know these cars are polluting our aquifer, and I'm a sewer and water commissioner, and the sewer and water people pay for this, not the town of Walpole. So I don't think we should let these vehicles into that watershed unless we have a protected area where we can allow cars to park without endangering the aquifer that our ratepayers paid for.
That I think is a great point, but we're still letting other organizations like, Little League still using it. And I've been up there because I've been coaching it, and there's 75 to 100 cars up there.
I can't
When
hear
we're
you.
doing the Little League games.
I can't hear.
There's a 75 to 100
We
cars.
we have other organizations that use it on a regular basis, like Little League.
Yes, and I have no problem with that. We
But
want
there's
to.
75 to 100 cars up there, Pat.
But the problem is the cars.
There's 75 to 100
They
cars
shouldn't
up
be there.
But we're letting,
I'm not
we're
letting
setting,
them do it.
we're setting a policy that we've let other
No, there's no
organizations do
policy
it.
that we set to do that.
So if we're not
No,
gonna,
you're talking about in a history that's been allowed to do that. But since the beginning, I've always said, no automobiles unless we have a environmentally safe place to put those vehicles. We can't keep letting cars be in there and dumping their, whatever the stuff that leaks out of cars, into our aquifer. This is, everybody said we should acquire this aquifer. For 20 years, we waited to do it. We finally did it, and now we're letting cars go in there to pollute it. And these people have wonderful, reasons to have their affairs there, but there's other places in town where they can put their organizations.
so should we shut down all use of Jarvis Farm?
No, because again, the more people that use the farm, the safer the water system. What they found out is that if you exclude people from that area, we don't know what happens in there. The more people we let in there, walking their dogs even, okay? That protects our aquifer.
So how are you gonna
Have
solve the
1,000
vehicle?
eyes and 1,000 ears.
How are you gonna solve the vehicle issue?
Go ahead, tell them.
What they wanna do is put in a parking lot that'll, take care of anything that, comes out of a vehicle. The current holdup is that the way the land is laid out, the parking lot configuration has to be changed a bit because it's not fitting in the footprint that's available as it was designed.
And that's the state who's saying that, right?
Yes.
DEP? I've never seen that document. Could I see that, please?
Sure.
That'd be nice to have.
You're gonna need somebody up there policing vehicles, because they park all the way down the roadway, all the way to Common Street, when there's big events up there. I mean, they're not gonna park just on
And it's not like this is the only place.
I know.
But it's not a place for that. And it is a place for passive, it's a beautiful place.
But you gotta be able to get to it, and you gotta be able to park there.
That's the problem.
So,
But you can come in another way.
I know, but it's a 1.2
But
mile
you're
walk in there.
But you're already in the park.
I get it.
Well, there's
It's
a
a great
million
walk, by the
dimensions
way.
to this, but, yeah, the ball fields is another thing. The town just spent 14 million on 40 acres of new fields. I don't know. Well, we're still out of baseball fields. But on this one, do you want to entertain a motion to deny this?
I
or
made a
to-
motion.
Okay, there's a second, I'll second it. So I already seconded it, we're discussing it. Any other, before we vote? I think the notion here is that if we send this back, at least we'll get a further explanation from them, say, we don't understand the
That would be my
justification for this use because you have,
Lots of fields.
That would be my preference.
okay.
I'm just wondering if it's a separate organization from Norfolk Aggie altogether. Because it's the Norfolk County Aggie School Alumni. Might be a separate association.
It is.
Yeah, but that, hopefully they're not fighting with themselves. All right, so all in favor of this motion? Patrick, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
We absent.
no.
Two.
2-2-0.
220.
2-2-1, I should say, not 0.
Absent, yeah.
So it's not a vote, maybe we could,
I say we refer back and say, why are you looking
have
to
them come-
use us?
Is that a motion?
Have them come see us.
Is that a motion, Jeff?
Yeah, maybe have them come before the next board meeting, or ask them if they will.
I'll second that.
Okay.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. Now the help us help the nurses.
Even more vehicles, Pat.
I know.
50 on this one.
It's hard, but, you know, we're water and sewer commissions. We have to protect the aquifer.
Any observations, comments, motions on this? Do you want to use the cabin for children's lunches?
On the other folks that we provided that, and I guess even a little bit, do we provide access to the cabins and whatever? I would think that we should find out, or let the rec department know that, no, that's not something that we, in the issue being, who's gonna take care of, who's gonna be there to open them, who's there, gotta go to close them, do up any cleanup, although, you know, if any, regardless of any organization that comes in and doesn't leave the place in the same condition as they found it, I would say, you're not coming ever
Have
again.
them come and see us.
Yes.
Well,
So
that's
Scott, I mean, in general, is electric available up there?
I believe there is.
Water?
Yes.
And access to the cabins and bathrooms?
Do the cabins have cooking?
I don't know anything
facility
about
like that?
cooking.
No, I should go up and take a look and see what they have in
I
those
don't,
cabins.
I don't know about cooking.
John Spillane was gonna hold a meeting, one of our meetings at the cabin
Okay.
a couple of
be
years
cool, we
ago,
could do
but
that.
never, he got sick from it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he said, you know, we should have a public meeting down in the, I said, well, there's all those cars. But there's not that many. We
We'll
can
park on South
park in the
Street and walk
driveway.
in.
That's it, we'll walk right over through the woods.
Cross the bridge.
Wait a minute, do we wanna park on South Street? There's the aquifer even closer to the
All right.
village.
No,
Gee.
we're
Well, we'll
gonna
park
park
south,
right
we'll
here
park
and walk
there.
through the woods.
All right,
So,
next item.
do we want to take a vote on this? Is there a motion?
What's the motion?
Well, so we're asking for a motion. Do you want to authorize, help us help the nurses for their request? 100 children, 200 adults, 50 vehicles.
Isn't any food truck, asking truck, fire engine, cost committee?
What do we know about this organization?
Good question. I was just
Very
looking.
little. I only know about it. I read in the application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it nonprofit or for-profit? Sometimes these are profit fundraising groups. Help us help the nurses. Well,
Well, they didn't
there
even
doesn't
fill
seem
the
to be a
application
motion
out
to support
properly.
this.
Well, police details needed as well. How do we normally coordinate that?
I think the organization that wants it,
They need to.
would get, like in the case when the scouts are in there and want to have a campfire, they have to get, deal with the fire department.
So Scott, if we do like let them use facilities, bathrooms, all that, what do we do? Send in a custodian afterwards? Do we charge the organization back?
You could put a restriction on them that they're responsible for cleaning up after themselves, and they have to, if you, police details or fire, whatever the requirements you put on them,
Okay.
you can make sure that they're notified of that.
I would say that we ask for more information on this before voting. I'm not sure who the organization is and how this is appropriate.
Do you think they should come and
So make a
talk to
motion
us?
to have them appear possibly at the next meeting?
Yeah, we'll invite them to come and make the case for their request. A second to that?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll
Aye.
kick that can down the road. Now we have request by the planning board, Memo. This is,
Do we have those, Scott?
he brought you a table and everything.
Ah, look at
Magnifying
that.
glass,
That's amazing.
you know. No, go over there, you're supposed to go around and look at it.
You have his back to the camera.
So this is Northwood 4.
If they're gonna use town sewer and town water, any issue, I mean, I see they, want to limit the pavement width. You know, there's other things about sidewalks,
Private drive, sidewalks,
all that sort of stuff. But from our standpoint, in water and sewer, is there any issue,
Yeah, I got issues. If I recall, when this was developed, this area in here, I could be wrong, was designated as a field, a baseball field, or a recreation field. In other words, the developer agreed to have a green space here. What happened is, over the years, nobody ever used a green space. So they petitioned to release them from that covenant, and result is they have these, this thing here. What I don't like is all these little cul-de-sacs. I don't see why we can't connect them and get some flow through here. Right now, it's, everything is stopped.
I think that's a planning board item, though, you know, that's not,
Yeah, I'll move
I mean,
on.
I don't think 3 cul-de-sacs and not, you know, meeting the standards of, you know, what roads should be built to today and turnaround width and all that, I don't agree with that, but that's a planning board issue that.
No, that's our issue. Because what we do is, if you have the water only going this far, there's no other way the water can come to that house. So, for instance, let's say this water main breaks. If you have them connected now, not only do you have a grid for a flow of water to go through here, and you don't have the junk piling up at the ends of these things, but you also have another alternative source of water. So it's a safety factor for fire, it's a safety factor for us that we don't plug up the hydrants. So I would want to see these connected, whichever way he wants to do it, because he owns all this land anyway. So he can work that out with rights of way. Doesn't take anybody's land away. All it is easements for, and we'd like to see him connect these. We're not gonna do it, but he should connect these things together before this subdivision is,
It also
approved.
depends on the length of the dead end. If it's a relatively short dead end, like this is only 2
Well-
properties,
They're all short,
right?
but the thing is, they all dead end. And there's no, I mean, this is not how you do a water system. You can't have that, really. And like you say, it's a safety factor too. It doesn't cost him very much to put these in. Yeah, wanna go down?
So,
Who wants to take a look at this?
all right, so Patrick wants to loop the utilities.
I wanna loop the utilities from the dead
Send a
ends.
letter to the planning board
And the-
asking for that,
Yes, I guess we'd send the planning board a letter saying that our preference was that the roads be connected and that,
The roads don't have to be connected, right?
all right, well, the utilities need to be connected if the roads aren't. As far as, yeah, okay. Anybody else, any other comments, feedback? Okay. So it gets us to, Hitching Post Drive, and
Hey, Scott, where is Hitching Post Drive?
It's off Main Street.
Right after
Down-
Avenir.
Down towards,
Hitching Post, Clarkson, down near the Echo. That's,
is that the high tension lines?
yeah.
Okay, I got it.
the thing about I just would throw my 2 cents, I'm a little bit familiar with Hitching Post. is that was a sand pit. So the permeability there is tremendous. I mean, you couldn't have a more perfect place for a septic system in the area. Nothing could ever fail there. So I don't know why they would want sewer. It baffles my mind
Who
that,
brought this?
The,
it's a new, somebody who just moved in. The guy just, he said
One
he just-
person?
If they moved in, they got a Title V, the septic system's working, I'm not quite sure on why an inquiry.
I think just word got out that there's a possibility of sewer there, and they're looking to see if, that would happen. And I agree with you about the sand. I lived in the same area, and you dig down a foot and you hit sand.
Okay, I'm in favor of municipal sewers, but there are some times when, like you say, you're in a sand pit. It's kind of, it kind of makes sense to have a on-site septic. Would they need a pump to pump it up to Main Street?
From Hitching Post and Clarkson,
The closest would be Shoreview Drive
Shoreview,
heading
yeah.
north, that they would somehow have to
It
get
would-
it up.
Up there.
The sewer master plan-
We'd definitely need a sewage pumping station.
Yeah.
yeah, it will go down to Industrial Road, and then there'd be a pump station at the end of Production, and then we'll come up Production Road, back to, out behind Broad Street, Huntington Ave, that area.
Did we, when we were discussing the production road, did we ever come up with an estimate of what it would be if we just did Hitching Post and Clarkson Drive and
If you added Hitching Post and Clarkson Drive to it, it's a little over $7 million.
$7 million? And, oh, now adding
Does that
it
include the
to,
other 2 or 3 streets that are kinda like shooting off?
yeah, Cypress Lane and Bucket,
I believe so, yes. That's a
Bucket
package.
something or other. So that whole, but did it involve anything on the other side of the street, Production Road, that $7 million figure?
That includes that.
Okay.
So the Production Road, Industrial Road, that segment is, I don't have the exact number, somewhere over 3 million, like, so call it 3.5 million, I can get the exact number. If you add in Clarkson and Hitching Post, you bring it up over 7.
So it's almost like half of, maybe 3.5 million,
Right.
if somehow you were able to do that.
Right.
Our master plan doesn't, it does include sewering this area as phase 5, but it's dependent on phase 4, which would be a cross-country sewer from Smithfield over to South Street near Southridge, where it makes that funny little jog there. And, you know, not that we have to
Potential.
stick with the, what the master plan says, but we would be going in a different direction, and we'd want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we weren't messing up some other potential phases. The other concern is one that I brought up before, is I don't think people have any idea how much it would add, the betterment would be on this, and that it might be nice to know, but the betterment could be huge to the extent, and it shows up on your property tax bill as another line, but you would get a bill that it could be 50% more than what you had before, and you're signing up for, 10 or 20 years at that, so.
Could we have whoever wants this come and talk to us?
I mean, they've indicated that
Okay.
there are several other residents.
Yeah, that's what I wanna know,
And
exactly.
if we think that we could do just that area for 3.5 million, Scott, I can figure out,
Are they willing to pay that?
well, that's what
It'd be about $250,000 each.
Yeah.
I went back through my numbers, it's 3.1, almost 3.2, just to do Industrial Road and Production.
yeah.
And then it'd be over 7 million to do the whole Clarkson Hitching Post coming back by
So
gravity.
it's the difference, which is almost 4 million for
Yeah.
Clarkson.
Right.
And that, if we were just to do that, you would, because when you were going to do Production Road and Industrial Road, you were going to have everything go in from Clarkson into, and Hitching Post, into Production Road,
Right.
and go out the back way, because there is a sewer that connects to, I don't know whether it's a
Exactly.
Hawthorne or something.
They go all the way down Production,
So,
down Production, you'll pass U-Haul, straight through, and I can't think of the name of the street, right down near the train tracks, at the end of Huntington.
yeah, yeah. So,
State Street?
if it was gonna be
No,
about 4
further.
million without the industrial road,
Garfield?
then there would have to be a pump station to send it, most likely to Shoreview, where it could get into the sewer, and that probably still the former. Anyways, it would be interesting to find out how many really have, and also, it would not take long, and I've been talking to the town accountant just to make sure I understand. And I was looking in the master plan where it does talk about, betterments and whatever. Easily, they will be shocked.
Yeah, and I don't
So-
think people realize the advantage of the septic. I mean, there, as I say, that is probably the ideal, that's septic heaven over there. There was no reason to have sewer, and it's completely built out. There's no expansion of residents, there's a swamp all around those homes. So I really don't, I mean, we could talk to the people, but maybe make them feel, but sometimes when somebody buys a new house, they're told by the realtor that you would have gotten more money or would be higher, your home will be of more value if it's on sewer. Put another 50 or 75 grand on the sales price. So they think like that, well, if I resell it, if I get sewer, my house will be worth more. But they don't need sewer in that neighborhood.
Well, do we want to invite them in to
So-
see how many folks on hitching posts, as well as Clarkson
So
doing
the-
this, just,
There's 3 people. There's about 75 houses down there between everything down there.
Yep.
Hitching Post, Clarkson,
I
you know,
counted
Cypress.
80.
I'm rough numbers
Yeah,
here.
can we send a letter to that neighborhood?
3 out of 75.
No, you don't wanna start-
What do we do in this situation?
You don't wanna start-
Normal.
I'm thinking the reason it's 3 is they interact either with social media or somehow, and that's where the word of mouth came, going from the past.
I know.
And I think most of the other homeowners have no idea what they're even proposing.
Hey, I'm not maybe
And like Bill was saying, it's gonna be a big cost, per home.
I don't know who's right there on Clarkson, the first house, but he just put in a brand new system.
The other thing about this is just thinking globally. There's supposedly a whole new redevelopment scheme that most likely is gonna happen at the Walpole Prison. And there are easements and other things involved across from Production Road, maybe hooking the hitching post. Seems that people are trying to get, in the worst way, get sewer down. I think when this big project comes in, on the back of that big project, they can pay to bring the sewer down Main Street to where it needs to go, instead of us having to pay for it. Because it
Well-
seems like somebody's trying to get us to build a sewer down before they hatch their plan of what the big project's gonna be.
well, the other thing that.
In fact, there's two projects. One's at the Pondville Hospital site, one's at the prison site. Between the two of them, they will pay for all the sewer that will be needed in the future down there. So I don't think we should be rushing
But
to spend money on this early.
The other thing that we should be aware of is the policy, and it's in our the sewer master plan, is that 25% of the cost in the project is borne by the sewer ratepayers, which if this project had been underway, your 5% increase on sewer would probably be around 10% based on the quick work that I was doing earlier today on this. As well as 75% of the cost being borne by the homeowners. And that's the part that I think when they hear that, they're gonna say, I don't need that. And even if I have to have a mounted system, it'll be cheaper.
Yeah. That's my big thing is trying to work with the Board of Health and the officials on being more lenient as to types of septic systems, so they don't have to, if they don't have to have the mounted system, there's probably many neighborhoods where they wouldn't want to demand sewer. They can upgrade their septic systems if they're selling and meet all standards without the stringent regulations that we happen to use here in Walpole.
I'm sure Pat remembers that when we would get people who said, yeah, we want sewer, do you want to connect? No, they just want to run by my house so that if my system fails, I have a place, immediately can
Which
address
is
it.
fine,
That's true.
that's fine. Oh, go ahead.
Scott, there was indication that maybe a questionnaire went out to these residents at some point in time.
Not
in
by the
past?
town.
Not by
Oh,
the town?
there is a reference in there that something happened in the past. I don't know exactly what they're referring to as a document.
Okay.
But I read that in there as well,
Yeah.
Okay.
that they're bringing up information from the past.
But we don't know of any questionnaire that ever went out to,
Not from the town.
okay.
Before we get off sewer,
They redid the road up there. There was a questionnaire to get rid of the cement roads and put
Yeah.
blacktop
That was on
down there.
Hitching
That was,
Post.
that was the last thing I remember.
Before we get rid of sewer, and before Pradeep gets to his, I sent everybody an email about NWRA sewer metering. Did you all get it? Or did you ignore it?
I didn't get it.
This is old, isn't it?
I sent it to all the commissioners. All right, then maybe it's the wrong email. I should
Okay.
talk to you before we leave.
Okay.
Anyway, NWRA had a haphazard since they've been in business, a haphazard way of measuring how much sewer comes from each customer, which is basically a town. So, they've instituted a few years ago a metering system. So what's gonna happen is that metering system's gonna go into effect. And they're afraid of, it's not culture shock, it's money shock. If some towns may have been paying very little, their assessment, and some towns may have been paying more. I doubt that probably. And they wanted everybody to be aware that the next rate hearing next year, that sewer charge is up in the air, basically. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
And I hope, I'm sorry you didn't get that.
No, that's okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah.
Let's-
Did
let's
everybody
send
else got it though,
Somebody
right?
else forwarded it to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes? No? Okay.
so it could be good or bad, but
It could be good or bad, but usually bad.
okay, moving right along.
So we're gonna make a motion on Hitching and Clarkson, or
I think we,
table it?
Well, we
Stick
should
with the master
respond to them
plan.
in some fashion.
we want to answer
That it's in the master
Jennifer
plan,
or
phase 5, but, you know, based on maybe developments on 1A in South Walpole, you know, we'll look at potential options in the
Yeah,
future.
we can respond to the
Aren't we
pre,
having those people come and talk to us?
you want the
We didn't
three-
make a motion to do that, but, I mean, I'm thinking 3 out of 80 people.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
I think we should send letters to everybody in that whole catchment area.
I don't think it's worth
Just
the
stir the
administrative cost to do it, quite honestly.
One thing we could do is respond by letter to each of the 3 that have reached out with emails, and answer their questions.
Maybe we can explain.
It's
the
not a high
cost.
priority at
We
this
could-
time for this neighborhood.
Yeah,
Right.
it's Pradeep just.
There's a master plan based on the,
Well, not only that, but to indicate that there are betterment costs that are substantial, and if they wish to, you know, talk to us to get a better idea of that, then make an appointment, and we'll be happy to explain what they would be looking for, as opposed to, nice to have it run by the house, and if I ever need it, it's there.
That's
Okay.
with you, right?
All right, so now Pradeep has a couple issues he'd like to discuss.
So, to start with, Mr. Chairman, we had great hearing last month, and one of the things which is, we tell the rate by 90 days, but we use different days, average days to send the bills. I suggest we publish 30 days block rates and use it for 90 days billing. This will help us basically switch to monthly payment plan in future. As of now, we know that the town is only capable of doing 90 days billing.
Keith, I just had a question. So, publishing 30-day rates, so would you, because right now they're 90, would you change the blocks? I mean, the first one's 1,500, make the first block 500,
yeah.
and take the rate and cut that by 2/3 also?
No, the rate will be same, isn't it? It doesn't change the rate. The block rates are same, isn't it?
So
It's
the
just
blocks
If the
would
block
change.
changed, the rate changes.
Well,
I
that,
think we
that's
would
my
need a-
question.
No, only the block changes, isn't it?
So
One
you
part
would,
of the block.
for 500 cubic feet, the
The
rate
rate
would still be,
Same.
now it's 54.45.
It will still be the same.
I'd wanna figure out, cause I'm looking at, boy, if you cut the rate by 2/3 as well as
No,
the
no.
block size,
No,
we just threw away huge amounts of money.
It's just the block rate. which
So
is
just
one.
so you would say well, the way that Munis works is, it doesn't know whether you're using 90 days, 60 days,
That's
whatever.
correct, yeah.
So if you came and said, I usually around 1,200, give or take a little, it would say, oh, well, the first block is 500. No, okay, so you're gonna pay the first 500 out of my 1,200. Then I'm all of a sudden into block 2, and in my case, that's where it would end, and I would have not only my rates being just in block 1, it would be block 1 and 2.
Just the average of those two.
But why would we increase the rates for people, and I could, start figuring various, scenarios, but
No, but in the 90 days also, it's actually the rate which goes is the average rate. For 90 days, the whole, you're fitting to 1,200 by 90 days.
right.
1,200 by 90 days in the average of 90 days. How does it changes to, 13 to 90 days? It's still be 1,200.
Well,
still be 90
now
days.
that I understand that you're just changing the blocks, I'd like to do a
Yeah.
little more figuring,
Which
because
is
my
fine.
first thought that you would divide both, and
No,
doing some quick, and I'm thinking,
No
no,
rate
we
change.
can't afford to do that.
no rate change, just the
Yeah,
block.
just a block, well, all right, I'd like to just, and I'll do that.
And the other reason I saw is that they are already using it for 98 days, or, in some cases, it's already 93 or 92, which is more than a quarter, 99 days, it still has to run those average number above 90 days. So
The
this-
reason that they're doing that is to try and spread them out, rather, initially, all the bills were done in a 6-week period, and it was contributed to our billing gap by shifting some of them a month earlier and some a month later. You would end up, you doing 1/3 of the work on 1 month, a third, the second month, and a third, on the third month, and you would just keep doing that, and they would be able to, get into, as best, now we can't get down as far as you'd like, but, between 30 and 25 days between that billing gap.
No, but 99 days with the billing gap of, just take example, like I just said, with that, 36, 81 and 36 days, those lag days are still making it more, like, it's not.
And the
it's not
intent is
helping us.
to migrate over a few cycles, not all at once. And there was some reason that we decided to do that because of, if you're billing at 92
let's-
days versus 90 days, you don't see any difference. If you're going if you drop from 90 days to 60 days, or 90 to 120 if you wanted to move them, it's huge differences. But anyways,
So there's no change to 90 days billing policy?
right.
That's
Now,
what
now
I'm-
that I understand
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying, it wasn't clear to me what the changes were, so I thank you for clarifying that.
So that's basically to give us, future projection also, if you want to switch to monthly payment plan. The monthly payment plan is also, we need work before we decide that, okay, we want to switch to monthly payment plan. We need the cost of paper billing, and we need the cost of electronic payment, or number of electronic payments which we are receiving now. We don't know what those numbers are, like how many people are actually sending the payments through check or cash, or
Isn't
doing
that
the online
iCloud platform?
invoice
Is that
cloud,
the invoice
yeah.
cloud platform?
No, but how many people are actually sending the paper check, or in doing
Yeah.
cash,
Yeah.
or how many people are using debit card or credit card, something like that. So we need those information.
Scott, me personally, I get the invoice through the cloud platform, that platform there, and I don't need the paper copy at all, so. If we know how many people are paying online electronically, we could make some projections that, we may be able to save, similar amounts on paper billing for those customers.
I see the breakdown of paper versus electronic.
Yeah.
That's the,
And
that we'll need for
yeah.
future.
And then if we do know what the cost of paper billing is, and we're able to eliminate the paper billing for those electronic bill payers, there's some savings there.
One thing that I know that the collectors mentioned to me many months ago is that on some of the way people pay causes them a lot of work, and that it doesn't, when you pay it with the bill, it has the bill number, it's got the account number, whatever, and if someone just sends a check with, their proper amount, but it's from Mary Smith, they gotta go figure, what's the account number on this, and I don't know about, certainly I think on the iCloud, they have all that information, but,
That will be a paper payment, isn't it?
right.
It's not electronic payment.
No, I understand electronic it probably wouldn't be, but some places, if you have the bank
Scan and
send a check, for you, I guess in some cases, they don't provide enough information and they have to.
Well, you
the
provide it
office-
ahead of time. I do electronic bill, I pay all my stuff electronically.
Right.
Okay, what I listen to you folks, right, and I don't know a lot about billing, but I was watching this program in some foreign country. You take your credit card, you're down the cellar, put it in the machine, and it grants you X amount of gallons of water,
Prepaid, right?
right?
It's
You ever
like a
hear of that?
parking meter,
Prepaid.
like a parking meter.
It's like the old days, you put the quarters in for electricity, but
That must be real old days.
Taking a shower at a campground, Jesus.
you could, like, the way I do it is, again, the bank, I get the bill, but I have an account for Walpole, it says Town of Walpole, Water and Sewer. When I access that, it has all the information about my account, number and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I punch in the number that the bill says, I don't send the bill or anything, punch that in, it's gone.
Done.
That's it.
Hmm.
That's what you're trying to drive to, so you get instant payment.
Yeah, so that's the.
Well, here's the solution to that. Give the people who do that a discount.
I mean, the discount will show up once we
You know
know
what
the
I'm saying?
cost of paper billing and all, and then let's say I have seen that some town charging the cost of paper billing also, like $3 per month or something like that.
Whatever,
Yeah.
give them
per
a
bill.
break.
For the people who are paying electronically, does not have that cost because there's no.
That's right.
So
There's
that's
no-
why we're trying to find out the cost of paper billing and the number of electronic transactions so that we can distinguish, okay, paper bill costs this much and this is the charge we can put for paper
And
bills.
on the town side, if they cooperated more, right now, if I pay my Edison bill,
Mhm.
it goes the next day.
Right.
Okay, because they are in the system. Most companies in Massachusetts are in the system. My Bank of America, and they're in that system. The town could be in that system also. Right now, what happens is that when I pay that, the Bank of America generates a
Paper
check
Paper check, yeah.
and then mails that
Yeah,
to,
Love.
the
TD
town.
Bank does the same sort of
Okay.
thing, yeah.
but that takes about, I think, 3 or 4 days. But they could have this the same day.
Yeah.
If the town could manage to get their act together and get involved with these banks, is there any reason why they can't?
No, I think that's very old technology now, as of now, that it's called
So-
digital lockbox.
So they could do that?
They could do that, yeah.
Because that would make it easier for me, because in the dates that it's due, I could send it right away.
Yeah, that's happened to me also, like I send and I see that Eversource and every else is taking out next day,
Right.
but the Walpole water bill takes 10 to 12 days to clear up.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's the plan is to basically find out all these numbers, number of paper payments and, number of electronic payments, and find out the cost savings for both the consumer and for the,
Mhm.
that's our plan.
Well, is there staff available to do that?
So, I can make some inquiries about the numbers that you wanna get as far as the number of paper statements, number of, electronic. Depends on all the detail you wanna get into.
Can we get Jody in to talk to us?
I can speak with them.
That might be
Ask her
Lisa
about
is,
this?
Yeah, we can try
Lisa is the
arguments, yeah.
one who's doing
Or
the
can have
collecting, so. it might be-
Commissioner Abbott go talk to her and ask her if they can, start to make it easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Then you'd be happy, because it'd be coming right away,
Yeah.
the money, and the billing would be solved.
It's not happy, the main reason I think I said before in the earlier meeting is that if you get a $300 bill, it's a quarterly bill, it's impacted the budget,
know.
no one expects.
So if we went to,
If we do monthly, it's
monthly.
$100 a month, so you'd expect that to pay it quickly and, just go.
would that be
ahead with your
better
life.
monthly?
Yeah, so that's the
But it
whole
wouldn't,
idea.
it wouldn't cost the town anything to do that.
If they
Well,
change
will.
everything to
It
electronic.
will.
Once-
There's gonna be initial cost.
Initial, there's gonna be
Because-
initial sometime, there's gonna be some arrangement. But the bank will be happy, because what happens is that if you're a Bank of America, let's say we pick a Bank of America, okay, if I'm taking my money and putting it into the town, and they have Bank of America, it never leaves the bank. So they like that because their money stays in the bank. So they shouldn't be charging very much for that system, because that's
Well,
their
we'll see when we
benefit.
get the information as to how much things cost and whatever, so.
So that's about the current two items, and we have been like,
And get extra charges. Credits. We get credits from DEP for monthly billing.
How about that?
so other item is basically every regular business for us is to look for the customer care and billing issues. Like we got like 2-3 issues today. We already get monthly production revenue number from Mr. But some places have seen that these numbers are published also on the website, like how much production is happening. There are customer self-service tools, mobile apps where the customer can log in and see their own number for last everyday use and everything. So those are the things which we already discussed before, but we want to now track or discuss in every meeting so that we can call the vendors and see whether the customer self-service tools can be put for the town of Walpole residents. So that's one of the items. And the meter to cash report I was asking sometimes, it's random, but basically it's to track whether the billings are done on time or not. So once we switch to regular billing and all, it's not needed, but in general, that was one of the items.
So, can I just, when we're tracking the billings done on time, you're looking at the time we read the meter and when we sent the bill out?
That's correct.
You just wanna know,
That to reduce it to the,
Right.
normal 5 to 10 business day.
okay, so that's what the meter to cash report is that. So you, I guess the cash part was the part I couldn't figure out what.
No, that's a general term used in the utility business.
Oh, okay.
It shows how efficient the utility is in running the whole,
So the idea being is you're getting your cash in sooner, if I can turn the reading of the bill, reading the meter and sending the bill out, they have 30 days to pay, and if it took me, 10 days to get it out, I'm gonna get that money within that 30-day grace period, but if it takes 50 days to get the thing, I still would give them 30, but I had to wait those 50 days, that's your,
that's one way to look at it. The second thing is you're selling a product which is like almost $1 million a month,
right?
and then if you wait for 150 days, then you're basically losing that revenue to use it for your projects.
Okay, so,
That's the biggest concern.
but it
If you shorten
really
the
is the
duration,
difference
yeah.
between when we read the meter and when
we-
the bill goes
yeah,
out.
and,
Okay.
and if you send those bill on time and faster,
Hmm.
then you can do your projects much more faster.
Yeah.
At least.
Okay.
That's the
But
idea.
why couldn't we do auto pay? Like the gas company, my gas company, I pay a certain amount every month, all through the year.
They do budget billing by looking at your last 12 months.
What they did is they took the average and they gave me a plan,
Yeah.
a payment plan, right? And at the end of the year, it's reconciled.
Yeah.
Either I get a credit or a debit. Why couldn't we have something like that also for water? We know basically how much do you use? How many gallons, cubic feet do you use a year? You know that, right? Roughly.
Yes, it's 4 times 1,200. I always use my example there. Because
Okay.
it's
So you know what-
1,265, and,
You know what your bill
Right,
should be,
yeah,
roughly, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so you could automatically pay that,
yeah.
right? The town could, they know the information too, because they have the computer.
Yeah,
So that's another way we could do it, is that you have a auto pay.
well, there's
That's-
lots of
that's-
things that we could do. None of them are things that we are reinventing the wheel. It's
So that's
the
why-
systems
But,
that we
but
have.
the question
and
is, why aren't we doing it? We have sole authority to design the billing system.
We do if, but
And we have, read the charter.
yes, we have, and we could say we want them done, and then they would say, I can't do it, what you're asking, find somebody else, and here's how it has to fit in.
But we never gave them all these alternatives that we're
Well,
talking about.
that's the thing, there may
Right.
be something that they say, oh, we could do that, or maybe we'll find out that, wait a minute, we can't, Munis won't allow you to do that,
Well,
nor
we
the
could get
KB
rid-
system into the
You might have
Munis.
to get rid of that for the water,
Well, I'm just saying, we
because
definitely
other
we wanna-
utilities do this,
Yes,
and if they can do it, why can't we?
and we'll find out the
Well-
answer as to why, but that's all.
Yeah, well, one of the things I've encouraged, if we can get 1 or 2 vendors in here who have successfully done other communities to your satisfaction, to have them and explain how they did it, how it benefits, what's the cost and benefit analysis of doing this. And we can ask the questions, we'll understand exactly what's being recommended, instead of us trying each of these things on our own and bungling around doing samples and this and that, and trying to patch it all together. Let's talk to somebody who's solved the whole problem several times, the whole ball of wax. Come in and tell us how you did it,
Okay.
and what it costs, what the steps are, what you're saving, what you like about it, what your staff doesn't like about it.
Is
the
that a
whole thing.
motion, John?
Yeah, I don't know who to ask to have come in, but, yeah,
Scott,
I'll
We
move
have
that.
Scott, we have Steve.
We bring a couple of vendors in
They
to
can
explain,
find vendors
the
for
people
us.
who do Westwood, let's say, or I don't know what towns you would, what towns would you suggest?
I think you'd wanna find out what towns use an outside.
What their vendors are, not the towns themselves.
Well,
Yeah.
if you find out that Westwood does it through a vendor, you go, and what's the name of the vendor? Now you got at least one name, and then you go to Canton and find, no, they just use Munis, okay. Go next to the thing, and you, as soon as you get a few, and you get some indication of, yeah, I don't like talking to, somebody that, the customer support is, in a foreign country, and it's hard to understand with the accent or whatever, or they're great with their customers. You'll find out information as well as the names of who, and it'd be good to actually talk to the people who use, some vendor, because the vendor will tell you how great their service is.
Which is fine, like, I think we should get more than one vendor, not just one vendor. And, one of the vendor, I know Westwood was, is a drop counter.
Yeah.
And, I think I sent you an email like a few months back about 3 vendors.
You did.
who are-
I have that.
So if you can call them, all 3 of them, I don't think all 3 of them will show up to us, isn't it? But if 1 or 2 can come and show us what they have to offer,
Why
all the
wouldn't they
same
come
things,
in?
yeah.
You have a potential
oh, yeah.
customer.
No,
Or
I'm
a
not.
separate
I'm
night,
just-
at the
I
same
have
night,
picked up
probably.
3 random.
Well, we would
samples.
certainly need to have the folks from the finance committee, not the committee, but the finance department, because if you're using an outside vendor, it does have to interface with, and since Munis is a commonly used, they probably have an interface. And if they don't, then I would say we probably can't use them, because the interfacing would probably be a nightmare, but
Just before we reach out to a vendor, do we have to go through purchasing and put on like an RFQ or something like that?
Not to
An
get,
RFI, just for informal information on.
if you're just looking for demonstrations or, a proposal, I don't believe so.
we had
If you're
the
actu-
folks in with the water sense, whatever, they came, there
Yeah.
was no
You just call them
purchase
up?
order, whatever.
You can have somebody make their case, this is our product, this is what it does, and
Yeah.
then you decide you wanna go in one of those directions, then you can put out
I'm just more formal. I'd go through purchasing, put together, here's our wants from a commission standpoint.
Yeah.
you know, monthly billing, you know, budgeting, automatic payments, electronic payments, all that kind of stuff. You know, put together a small, you know, request for information and send it out to the 3-4 vendors we know that might be in that space, so.
Sure. We've done that with,
That's my thought,
we've done that with SCADA services.
yeah.
So you wanna do a more formal approach like that, go through purchasing, or,
You'd have to,
I don't know that we need to do that, it's up to you. That makes it easier for you to get it moving. I don't know what they know about the water vendors
You
or
took
anything.
RFPs?
yeah, you'd have to have a scope, you'd have to have
We don't have.
exactly what you want.
We don't have a scope, so we're not at RFP here, we're at more
Yeah.
of an RFQ, RFI. type
You want
thing.
information, you know.
We're just looking for information. What do other towns do? What are
We
the
can do that.
technologies out
Yeah.
there available?
Right.
That's the type of thing. you know?
Information gathering.
We've had people come before us who we never even knew about, that would say, we have this new something, I wanna come before the board and tell you folks about it. And they can just appear if we give them, if they get on the agenda, they come and they give us their spiel, the dog and pony show, as
Yeah.
a
Yep.
former
I
superintendent
think
used to call
talking
it.
to the collectors may be a good choice. I know when it wasn't Plainville, we changed systems, and the collectors, you know, they're doing the tax bills for property. And if you throw two systems at them, it might throw the whole world upside down.
That's why they are involved and they
They
have to
have to
be
be involved,
involved. Yes, there's no,
Of course, I was here when Munis got the job,
yeah.
and they promised us everything. I mean, everything. They promised us that if somebody was using more water than they usually use, it would automatically flag that and notify them.
That's the
That never
KP
happened.
system
Well,
does that, it's just very
No,
primitive.
automatically, not through the
Oh,
secretary.
Yeah,
They would call that number and say, we have reason to believe, the computer would call and say, there's some kind of a problem.
we
That never
can, we
happened.
can ask our collector's office to talk to Eunice, have them recommend a couple of towns where, that they have this type of approach, this type of system. But I would like the case study, not just somebody selling their product. I want the case study of the town, how it evolved, what the savings were, more of a case analysis than just.
Well, they'd have to tell us what
product.
towns they service
of course.
and give us that information.
And let them pick it. I mean, we want one that's similar to Walpole. Scalable and attribute-wise.
So, John, I think, right, what Pradeep's got here is, you know, he wants to add something as regular business on the agenda. I think you asked for every meeting. I'd propose we do it once a month.
Yeah, which is fine,
Yeah, so
yeah. We take the
these
first meeting,
5 or
the
6
second
topics, I mean, are those acceptable to kind of talk about?
Yeah, I have recorded that as monthly.
meeting. Okay, and the next one is again the new capital projects and new revenue. One of the things which we were asking most of the time was ARPA funding status.
Mhm.
So, if the funding is started, you know, we started using projects, if we can provide it to the board, that would be great.
So,
Other thing which I was.
Can we-
saying-
can we actually
So,
Yeah, I just wanted to know,
Let's-
did the select board, want to know, like a prioritize of the 4 items that we had? Because clearly, there isn't enough money
enough
to
money.
do all of our list, never mind, you know, the 40-something million dollars that everybody had, and I think there's only 13 million left.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that we ought to do, is say,
I think
all
we
right,
should pick-
prioritize, here's our order, and, you know, hopefully we can get, at least one and possibly, 2 items.
I was thinking we definitely select, you know, I know the secondary line is your priority,
Mhm.
but it's $2.5 million, and there's not enough ARPA funding to fund it, I think.
right, some of
Given everything that's out there.
some of them that still have a benefit, like the, cleaning the raw water transmission lines.
Yeah, so
That-
the raw water lines, and I think that the membrane were the 2 I would recommend that we, and maybe
That's-
ask that we send a formal letter to the select board,
Right, those are the
asking
two.
for consideration of ARPA funding to cover those 2 projects, unless
I'll second
anybody
that.
else has, well, does anybody else have any other projects?
I have no problem with that either,
Add to the
except,
list.
didn't we tell them this? Is this to reiterate?
Or you have to
This is-
tell them several times.
Yeah, okay, I
It's-
second that.
Those were the two for water. The one for sewer was the Morningside Drive pump station, the $296 on the sewer side of it. So it was those three.
We took care of that with the budget, so I don't
That's
wanna,
true.
I don't wanna go back to that. I don't
Okay.
wanna touch that again.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think that's, the way that was handled, that should be in our, going to our enterprise fund. I mean, at the 292, and let Jim O'Neill fulfill his promise to fund that.
My thought would be is, it was 296,000, we ought to be able to handle that through rates. It's the big items that you're hoping to, that you don't have. Yeah.
Membranes, if you're gonna pick a 1 and 2, I'd say, membranes number 1, and number 2 would be the cleaning the
water
transmission lines, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So, make a motion to,
What are we gonna say? We wanna know the status of those?
no, make a motion that we send a formal letter to
Let
the
me hear the
select.
motion, please.
Make a motion to send a formal letter to the select board requesting consideration to prioritize
Our
the
request, our
membrane,
upper- yeah.
the two ARPA fund requests being Willis treatment plant, membrane, and the raw water lines.
Cleaning of the raw lines. I'll second that.
I already did, but that's beside the point.
Okay.
I wanted a second.
Further discussion, anyone else? I would just say parenthetically, that's kind of thin as our percentage of the pie.
It is,
It's
that's-
less than
it
20%,
doesn't-
which is really,
but
we're a
it
bigger
doesn't
part of the
mean that's
budget
the
than
only
that.
thing. You said prioritize.
Right.
That's the prioritized list.
Right.
And then the
There's
third,
still 10
There's
other
still
things on the
other
list.
things. Right.
yeah, well, we should not be, they're sort of been narrowed down here, and I think that the next one would be the water main replacement, FATM.
Do you wanna add to it?
It's not that one, that we've already
It's already been approved.
approved, and
We
the
haven't
June
fund-
Street, where we've already done the
Right.
design on that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
and we've ordered the
it's already
pipe,
been, it's been awarded to PJ Hayes. That's the
Yeah.
project you're talking about?
yeah.
So what's the amount on the June Street?
That was
2.3 or 2.8?
2.3, I believe. Not 2.8.
2.8
$2,800,000.
Of which we've already, the design is in
Yeah.
there, we've awarded it to somebody,
PJ Hayes.
and how much they've spent already, and I don't know what well, it wouldn't be a case of telling them not to do it. They don't care, as long as they get their money where it came from.
Guys, my
Does it-
thought is there was 5.7 million left that unallocated. There was 43 million in requests. Let's just come up with a real list of what possibly could fit into that.
One other thing to keep in consideration about prioritizing is the membranes. You can't order them today and have them tomorrow.
Yep. that's
There's
a
gonna be a
year out.
time,
Yep.
10 to 14 months from the time they say, we'll put your order through before they actually ship. And those membranes are degrading now, so you're running out of, that window's closing for replacing them, running out of time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say parenthetically, that the huge list of capital items that really was not legit as far as being infrastructure, was done on purpose. I think that's the way administrations work, and they get the budgets going the way they want. There was a lot of trucks and ridiculous things in there, have nothing to do with infrastructure, a lot of school insulation jobs, other things that were just catch in to make the number look fat, so that we would be back down in our percentage. So I don't see any reason, you prioritize these 1, 2, 3, that's all.
So-
John, are you amending the motion?
Do you want to add
Well,
anything on
yeah,
that,
I
John?
wanted the third one, what is it, the June Street that's 2.8?
I didn't want to add anything that we've already accounted for, and that was fall annual town meeting.
But prioritize, like we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, like this.
If we've already got it approved and identified a funding source, I was staying away from that. Meaning, we've kind of already handled it from a capital budget perspective. We know how we're funding that project. This was stuff that we haven't figured out yet. That's how that was my mindset, John.
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, so I guess I'm the only commissioner would like to put the 296,000 on there, nobody else is interested.
But you're making an assumption,
my,
John.
My assumption was that there are more projects other than this which are in pipeline, isn't it? The
pipe.
Well, one of the things I just wanted to bring up later is the fall annual town meeting warrant is open now, and there is a date that closed, which is in sometime in August. We should find out the date, because there always is something that we need to have done, so I would think we should get an idea of what we want on the fall annual town meeting, because right now, we got nothing.
The other thing is, the more options that you give as far as prioritizing, it makes it a lot easier to pick and choose, like, oh, this one, not that one. But if you say, this is our number one and two, this is what we're concerned about mostly, that might be a better way to get the most appropriate project.
John, what do you want to do?
Take a vote, we got a
Well,
motion and a second.
we have a motion. I would like to amend that to just say that as a potential third-ranked project, we do the, what are you saying, Bill, Morningside or June Street?
Okay, can I
Well,
just, I need to have clarity. We have your motion.
Right.
This is gonna say,
Just what he
I
said,
will
except,
amend, I'm gonna amend the motion from a priority standpoint to be the membrane replacement, the raw sewer line, raw water line cleaning,
Yeah.
and the 296,000 to complete Morningside Drive.
okay, I'll go along with that.
So do we have a second? You're gonna
I'll second that.
All right.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0. Okay, good. I'm glad we got that. Okay, what's the next thing? We got a lot of,
I think
No, so I
adjournment.
just
He's got a
wanted
few
this to
just-
be included.
just to be discussed in the future.
Yeah, future meeting, I want to discuss the same things, like there may be a state funding or MWRF funding available. So if we keep like monthly once, or we can do alternate one-time customer care and billing, and the next time we can talk about new capital project or new revenue sources. Because we need to discuss that 4 to 6 months before we come up with some plan. And that includes state funding also. I've seen the state also provide some infrastructure funding for water and sewer projects. So just to find out what are the options available now. MWRF funding, this again was something I saw with few of the towns. They're using it to do their work, just to figure out something which we can use. Fire suppression charges we have discussed before, but that needs to be, that was mostly around the private condos, isn't it? But we still need to discuss the warehouses, like if they're using different meter sizes, do we need to, start charging?
Yeah, this is
them?
something John brought up. We came up with a good number that we think fit for your large connections versus your smaller ones. But I think, John made the point that we should do a more in-depth of those 100 properties, and charge appropriately based on the size of the suppression system.
We are, unless we want to change midstream, we are set with $500.
Yes, no, we're set on that.
future.
This
Yeah.
was for
This is
future.
for the-
Yeah,
future,
I've been given
yeah.
some thought and would look to see what's like the assessed value of these properties as a way of indicating the value that having the sprinkler is protecting.
I think it should be done based on the size of the connection.
Size of the meter, yeah.
Well,
That's how other
I would also look at those things, because the size of the meter indicates what you can deliver. But at the same time, they're doing this because their insurance company is telling them they either won't insure them or the rates will be extremely high unless you
That also
have this.
depends on how it's connected, because I've done a little bit of research on it, and they're a little bit all over the place. Some of the size of the meter, some of the size of the connection.
Yeah.
And if you have a fire system that has a connection with no meter on it, why would you go by the size of the meter? In my opinion, if it's a 12-inch connection or whatever that happens to be, 8-inch, 10-inch.
You wouldn't connect the fire line to the meter ordinarily.
If you're talking about a fire suppression system going into a building.
That's right, you would not connect that.
No,
No.
it'd be a separate line.
The engineer, when they see a building, they look at what it would take to suppress a fire. That's what they look at, and they size it to whatever.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you put a meter in line, which they usually don't, and they put a special backflow in line that that's a different kind, so that it doesn't reduce the pressure. The whole point of the game is to get as much water into that building as you possibly can to put out the fire, right? So the fee should be on the size of the water line.
That's up to you as a board.
Well,
What
I
I'm
mean,
saying is
that-
that what I've
that's
seen as
what
far as
makes
research,
sense.
that
Well,
some do it one
We
way,
need-
some do it
We need the
another.
number, we need how many such customers are there, you
Yeah.
know, how many.
But one of the
different
concerns we
sizes.
had was when we were talking $1,250 for a connection, or an assessment, that's some warehouse whose water bill is like, you know, it's a toilet, is, you know, $16 a quarter.
Yeah.
That was a
What's the
serious
point?
concern, and that's why we looked to lower it, and, but huge corporations, maybe a higher fee is appropriate.
People keep forgetting that a water system is built for two reasons. One is to provide domestic water.
Right,
The second one is fire.
right.
The fire costs a lot more than the domestic system. We need the hydrants, we need bigger water mains.
Right.
We need stand towers so that we have capacity. All that brings that price way, way up. So it's not
Yeah.
apples and apples.
It's only $100 a month for a big warehouse bill. That's a tip, that's a
And that's
nominal
okay, but.
utility bill.
Yeah, it's okay, but
So that's,
I
like
would
you say,
want
you're
to
comparing
get
the
a
wrong
better
thing.
sense of those, the impact on, and if you call
Well,
it.
I think we're saying we're gonna discuss
$100
this
a month, well,
If you
maybe
did-
that's okay.
If he didn't have that water line, he'd be paying a huge, he wouldn't get insurance.
Well, that's why I'm sure why
wouldn't
they
even
have
own
it,
the
that's why
building.
it is of some value, and it's reasonable for us to charge.
The reason, you know how these companies in Route 1 wanted our water?
Mhm.
The reason was they couldn't get a mortgage
Sure.
unless you can show a capacity for water to be able to control the fire. So even though there's domestic water, they could drill a well, right, and get water.
So we, yeah,
But they need the water that can suppress a fire.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a valuable commodity and they need to pay for it, because we're paying for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then,
last was the Jarvis Farm, we need to find out whether we can raise additional revenue from it. From Jarvis Farm,
they explore ways to get additional revenue
From Jarvis Farm,
from
I
Jarvis
think,
Farm.
I have no problem with fees or anything, I have just a problem with the pollution.
so the parking lot can have a solar farm also.
Well, the money, if we get some fees, we can use that to help us build a parking lot.
Or with the solar shed.
Good, these are good ideas.
So, on top of the
Okay.
revenue generation, I'd also like to continue having the discussion about Robbins Road and the disposal site.
Okay.
So,
That's a capital, yeah.
All right, there being no,
one more thing, I don't think we responded to Scott. Wednesday was Roger Turner's service. Do we need to public meeting?
No, I was not able to attend, so
Okay,
you
yeah.
just needed.
I wasn't
if you
able
had
to
three
either, I
people,
just
then you
remember that
would need
coming up.
a,
so.
Right. The-
For the open meeting law, if you have a full board.
Yep.
you
By the
know.
way, I want you all to read the open meeting law, because, you know, how if I invite you all to my house for a barbecue, is that a violation of the open meeting law?
No, because there wouldn't be three people who'd come, Pat.
Very good. Okay, let's say in a fit of something, you all came.
Throw rotten eggs at you, right?
You all came, right?
Yes.
Would that be a violation of the open meeting law?
No, I think on a social thing, it's not. So it's only.
That's, I did kind of question that for Roger's
But
thing.
you know, the
so-
only thing is, it's easy to just post it and you don't
Wait,
run
no,
afoul.
easy is not the way we do things.
Yes, I know, we don't
This
do
is
things
democracy.
easy, the easy way.
If we go if all five of us go to town meeting, do we need to post?
Actually, we usually do.
We
Then
usually
we
do.
should not have to post for town meeting,
That is again-
unless we have a meeting
Right.
inside town meeting.
Right.
okay.
But
I brought it
just
up
for
as a
us to show up, we
consideration.
don't need it.
Yep, nope,
All right,
appreciate it.
there being no further business, a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in
right.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.